This week's episode of the Slash Filmcast is brought to you by Audible. Please visit audiblepodcast.com/filmcast for your free audiobook download. Again, that's audiblepodcast.com/ and then the word filmcast.
Devindra Hardwar.
Joining us today, she's the features editor at pajaba.com. Joanna Robinson, welcome back to the Slash Filmcast.
Thanks for having me back.
All right, guys, so today what we're going to do is we're going to have a brief what we've been watching segment, and then we're going to dive right into an in-depth review of Man of Steel, the new film by Zack Snyder. If you're just tuning into the Slash Filmcast for the first time, you can find more of our episodes at slashfilmcast.com. Email us at slashfilmcast@gmail.com. You can also join our Facebook community at facebook.com/filmcast. That's facebook.com. And then the word /filmcast after a slash. So, let's get into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Joanna Robinson, what have you been watching this week?
I won't say specifically this week, but I want to talk about the movie Mud with Matthew McConaughey. I really love this movie. I saw it at South by Southwest, and then I saw it again just to make sure, because sometimes when you see a movie at a festival, film festival, your perception is really skewed. Maybe you're half asleep. Maybe if you work for Pajaba, you're half drunk. I really, really loved Mud at South by Southwest.
It's also like there maybe the director is in the audience and he's doing a Q&A, and maybe a bunch of the director's friends are there and they're cheering for the movie. You know? Yeah,
there's all this like there's like a certain kind of hype when a studio movie is released that comes to you in the form of like Taco Bell cups and stuff like that whole thing. But then there's a different kind of hype at a festival where you're just really excited, and yeah, you can see Matthew McConaughey in the third row and you're just like, oh my gosh.
The number one thing that impacts my positive opinion on films is Taco Bell cups of that film. So.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, so you must have loved Man of Steel.
Definitely.
No, I think they have a Burger King endorsement. Anyway, yeah, Mud is amazing. I saw it there. I loved it. I saw it again just to make sure, and it is so good. McConaughey has been turning in, stellar performance after stellar performance, but this might be my favorite of his entire career. And it's just a beautiful, slow-moving, perfect film. Two amazing performances from kids. Sam Shepard is fantastic in it. Reese Witherspoon is fantastic in it. This is by the writer and director of Take Shelter and Shotgun Stories. Jeff Nichols. I just can't recommend it highly enough. I think it's fantastic. I think Matthew McConaughey should have all the awards heaped on his head for it. And, it's been getting great reception all around, I think, but it hasn't really hit in the way that I would like to see it hit. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot about this film from Slash Filmcast listeners who have said, go see this movie. I have wanted to go see it, just haven't had a chance to. I mean, with SIFF, the Seattle International Film Festival, that's been occupying a lot of my time when I'm not at work. So, I've heard great things as well. I think it's in limited release right now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
So if you have a chance, go check it out. Mud, written, directed by Jeff Nichols, and out in theaters still. So, thanks, Joanna Robinson. Devindra Hardwar, what have you been watching this week?
Well, actually, what I've been playing is The Last of Us, the new game from Naughty Dog for the PlayStation 3. It's worth mentioning because we've talked about Naughty Dog's Uncharted series before in terms of just like how hugely cinematic those games are. They're like the embodiment of action movies and everything we love from things like Indiana Jones. The Last of Us is something entirely different. I've been looking forward to it for a while. It's about two people in a post-apocalyptic world, an older man who has to take care of a young girl for some particular reason, and they're on a journey across the country. This game is intense, guys, like more intense than I was even anticipating. It feels like it has the weight of Children of Men, like that idea that humanity is just pretty much on the edge of being rubbed out. And these people are just like struggling to survive. The entire game is a struggle. And it also feels a lot like Cormac McCarthy's The Road, a book that I loved. And I also really loved the film of that. But if you ever want to play through any one of those things, you want to feel the pain of a life like that, this is a great game to play. I think it's fantastic. Just
it's
because,
for those who don't want to escape the
you don't want to escape. Like this game is crushing. Just in terms of like, it is kind of difficult because it's one of those games where you don't have much ammo. There's not much going on, but every moment you realize you could just die. Like you could die at any second. It's been a while since a game has like made me feel this sort of dread, but it's great. It kind of evokes what I love about horror movies and post-apocalyptic dystopia films. It's crazy, and I think it's in an interesting way. It's also sort of reinventing survival horror. So I think fans of this show will love this game. You're probably all playing it already, but it's a great little swan song for the PlayStation 3. So just want to go throw a shout out there. Also, the score is fantastic by Gustavo Santaolalla. He's done quite a few films.
He did Motorcycle Diaries, right?
Yeah, Motorcycle Diaries, Morris Perros, that sort of thing. But it has his like trademark Spanish guitar, and it's fantastic. It just works so well to set the stage for the end of the world. So, yeah, fun times, great game. Check it out.
The game is called The Last of Us, and it is on the PlayStation 3. Devindra, one thing about like Uncharted is like that series of games largely regarded as derivative, right? It kind of combines a lot of elements of a lot of different games that we've already known. It combines like Indiana Jones with Tomb Raider with a bunch of other adventure games. Do you feel like Last of Us is also derivative as well? Is it kind of like a perfect distillation of these things, or does it do something so new that it must be given respect for that?
I think, it's like any story. Like any story owes a lot to everything that came before it. I think Uncharted was much more a very blatant, just like, hey, let's do, Indiana Jones on the PlayStation 3. Let's like show off the graphics and stuff. It's sort of like Tomb Raider. It's fun, big action. This game is very purposeful. Last of Us is just very deliberate in what it's trying to do. So we've seen some of these things before. We've seen like zombie invasions. We've seen like destroyed cities, and you've had to explore them. But I don't think, not in this way. Not in the way where like, pretty much every footstep you take, every like encounter you have with an enemy, it feels like the end of the world. And the game does a great job of like, I don't know, making you actually feel the tension of the entire situation, because you have this girl, this young girl that you're trying to take care of, you're trying to protect in a way. It's all just really interesting how it works together, and it doesn't shy away from like just I don't know how inhumane we'd become in a world like this. I just think it's fantastic. If like you enjoy the just like bleak world building of The Road, and it's actually a very similar structure too, because The Road is all about a father taking his son and trying to get to a place of safety or something. It's very similar to that.
Yeah. So if you want to be incredibly depressed and terrified of the future.
Who doesn't?
Check out Last of Us.
I
it just reminded me of that scene in War of the Worlds, probably one of the most effective scenes in Steven Spielberg's version of War of the Worlds, where everyone is kind of the attack has already happened, and there's a guy who starts like shooting people because he's trying to. You know what I'm talking about? There's a scene where like hell's breaking loose, and humans are turning on themselves for access to scarcer and scarcer resources. We are totally screwed, guys.
We are screwed, guys.
Yeah. In fact, watching Man of Steel, one of the things that occurred to me was like, if we ever make first contact with another alien race. Well, okay, I'm skipping ahead. Ahead. That's one of the things I liked about that film. So that's Last of Us. It's available for PlayStation 3. Mud is out in theaters right now. That's all we've been watching this week. I do want to also point out that we watched Before Midnight. Devindra watched this week. Joanna, when did you watch Before Midnight?
At South by Southwest.
At South by Southwest, and I watched it a couple months ago. So we're going to be releasing a bonus episode with our review of Before Midnight shortly after this Man of Steel episode comes out. So look forward to that on the /Filmcast feed and at /film.com. All right, so let's move on and dive into our review. Before we get to our review, though, I want to thank all the people that donated to the /Filmcast. Thanks to donors Kevin from Locust Grove, Georgia, Ben from the UK, Mike from Mebane, North Carolina, Bastian from Germany, Daniel from Gilbert, Arizona, who also signed up to be a subscriber at the rate of $2 per month. And thanks also to Simon from the UK. Thank you guys so much for your donations. Thanks also to Alejandro M. and Christopher P. for becoming subscribers at the rate of $2 per month. If you support what we do here at the Slash Filmcast, want to throw some money our way, you can go to slashfilm.com. Use the Slash Filmcast tab at the top of the page and click on the PayPal links on the left-hand sidebar. Really appreciate any cash you guys can donate. It helps us to do what we do here on the Slash Filmcast. So, let's move on, guys, and just dive straight into our review of Man of Steel.
Goodbye, my son.
That was from the trailer of Man of Steel, the newest film by director Zack Snyder. Stars Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, and Michael Shannon, amongst a bunch of other big stars. And this is the latest incarnation of the Superman story. The last one that a lot of us know and has been hotly debated was Superman Returns, directed by Bryan Singer and starring Brandon Routh and Kevin Spacey. So a lot to kind of think about, a lot to compare this movie to, and especially in the sense of the fact that Christopher Nolan was heavily involved in this film as well. If I'm not mistaken, he has a story credit, and I believe he's also a producer on this film. It felt to me as though DC Comics they've been trying to kind of sort of capture that lightning in the bottle that Marvel has with their entire Avengers line of films, and then the Avengers, the ultimate, sort of Avengers film. And so, Christopher Nolan has been doing a kick-ass job with the Dark Knight franchise. So they brought him in.
Well, mostly, right?
Yeah,
let's not forget.
From a box office perspective,
sure,
he's doing a great job. Okay, so they brought him in to kind of say, look, Green Lantern did not work out for us as we'd hoped. Can you please help us? And I would say that the sort of fingerprints of Christopher Nolan are unmistakable on this film. But let's get into that. I guess let's talk very briefly about our thoughts on Superman Returns. Just so people have a sense of what our thoughts were on the last Superman film. Jonah Robinson, were you a fan?
I felt very fine about it. Like, I enjoyed it fine. I thought all the performances were fine, but I guess when you make a Superman film, it has to be more than fine, just because of the place that Superman has in our cultural canon. So, I didn't hate it or revile it as many people did, but, it was okay. Fine performances, looked fine, but it didn't really stick in any way.
Devindra Hardwar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Superman Returns quite a bit. I thought, it was okay the first time I saw it. Like, it was, fine is a good word for that. But the thing about that movie is that it soured over time for me, just because the more you think about it, just the dumber it is, the more disappointing it is. And I get what they were trying to do with Superman Returns, but to a certain degree, it just didn't work. And then there are things like Kevin Spacey, who's great, playing a pretty silly Lex Luthor, with probably the dumbest plot I can think of in a superhero movie. That movie's ridiculous, and after all of that, there also wasn't that much action, too. So it just felt like a disappointment on multiple levels for me.
I think the biggest constraint that Superman Returns is operating under is a sort of unrelenting reverence to the Donner films, right? I mean, it was kind of a direct continuation of Superman 2, if my memory is correct.
Let's forget 3 and 4 exist. Yeah.
Right, and kind of like everything was kind of the score, everything from the score down to Brandon Routh's Cowlick were meant to recall the feelings we had when we saw those films, right? And I think that was limiting in some ways in terms of what he could do with the story, but also, it felt like it was treading on territory that we'd already seen before to a large extent. There were some great sequences in that film, right? I mean, notably the airplane sequence with Superman, which happened towards the beginning of the film. I mean, that was really thrilling and well executed. But when I think of Superman Returns, I think of how annoying Kate Bosworth and her kid were, and I think of these really random moments throughout the film that
I think of Cal Penn stabbing Superman with kryptonite. Cal Penn? Really?
It's not of reverence. It's not like I don't think back to it like, oh my gosh, that was a great film. I don't think back of it with fondness. I think about a lot of isolated moments that were pretty decent, but overall a film that left me feeling pretty unsatisfied. And so again, I think Joanna's viewpoint is totally how I feel about it. It's fine. It's not terrible, but it certainly didn't live up to its potential, because I mean, it has been many years since the last Superman film, when Superman Returns came out, and so all this modern technology that we have, right, all this amazing CG work that could be brought to bear on this franchise, and so we were hoping for kind of this rock'em sock'em action movie, I think. And we did not get it, and we were hoping with something that had themes that would, reach beyond the limits of this franchise, and that would sort of stay with us. And I don't think we got it. And I think Man of Steel, in some ways, is able to succeed where Superman Returns failed. But John Robinson, let's hear your thoughts on Man of Steel. I know you have a strong opinion on this.
Oh, okay. You really want me to go first? Well, the last thing I want to say, though, about Superman Returns really quickly is that because Bryan Singer was coming off of two X-Men movies that were so popular and, in my opinion, so good, there was that like, it wasn't just the Superman expectation, it was the Bryan Singer expectation.
Yeah.
And, and then it just was fine. Okay. Anyway.
Well, also, I should also point out, actually, that the Superman Returns movie was kind of the result of many, many years of development. I mean, if you look on Box Office Mojo, I think they list the budget of this movie as $270 million or something like that. Let me just verify that right now. And you might look at that and production budget $270 million. You might look at that and you might think, wow, that seems inordinately high for a movie. And that's because this movie was in production for a decade or so. I mean, Devindra, I remember, I think we were in college, I don't remember, but when we were talking about J.J. Abrams' script for Superman Lives.
Yep.
Right.
I remember because that leaked, I think, while we were both in high school, and that was on Ain't It Cool, and yeah.
And how insane it was more.
Yeah, it was Drew McWeeny who had reviewed that and how insane it was, yeah.
And so Warner Brothers and other studios have been trying to bring the Superman story back to the big screen for quite some time. Kevin Smith wrote a draft at some point. You know what I mean? Like, it's been in production for a really long time. And so I think there was also this sense from the studios that they wanted this movie to do spectacularly well. And if it did, it would have, spawned a sequel afterwards. And we never got a sequel to Superman Returns, not a direct sequel anyway, right? and I think that's because the movie didn't do well enough. Now I do want to point out, or speculate, like in an alternate universe where Superman Returns did slightly better, and imagine if there had been, some sequel like Superman Returns Again.
Some more.
That could,
Superman doesn't leave. Yeah,
it could have been the X2 or the Dark Knight of that franchise, right? You know what I mean? It could have been something that Bryan Singer was like, okay, I learned a lot from my mistakes. Let's try this again, and maybe knocked it out of the park. But
maybe,
this is based on no evidence whatsoever. I would say that because the movie was in production for such a long time, and because the gross of the movie worldwide was only so. The studio decided not to take another chance on this franchise, and as a result, Superman Returns is kind of tainted with that retroactive knowledge that it didn't perform as up to expectations, and so therefore it didn't warrant a sequel. So then they tried to reboot the thing and come back, right? And it's only been 7 years. They're trying to come back with a new franchise and say, let's try this again. Let's try to make this into another franchise that we can hang our hat on and hang, have a summer tentpole that goes up against the Avengers. So, John Robinson, the question is, do you think they succeeded?
No. Well, they did, in that it made a boatload of money, and I think we are going to see more. This is not the last time Henry Cavill's going to put that cape on, but
artistically, it was a failure for you,
in my eyes. And I went in with a Zack Snyder prejudice. I will admit that right off the bat. I do not like him. I think he's one of the worst filmmakers currently working. That's my opinion
Well,
of Zack Snyder.
You know,
That's
let me
pretty
just say,
harsh,
let me just
yeah.
say, you have not seen enough filmmakers. Then I think
I don't know about that. It could because
spoken like someone who's never seen Birdemic.
okay, I see how it is. No, but like he's technically proficient in some ways, but like in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
I have such hateful feelings about his films more so than I do. Maybe it's because he just keeps getting bigger and bigger projects and more material to play with that I resent it. It's not just that he's the worst filmmaker. It's that I feel like this isn't like the Emperor's New Clothes situation where other people don't understand that he is terrible and they gave him Superman. I can't believe they gave him Superman. I can't even believe it. I felt bored and fidgety and anxious in this movie. I felt zero emotional attachment. No, twice I felt emotional attachment. But the emotional stakes were so low for me. The action was repetitive, like flashy, but repetitive to me. Like I could not watch another person get punched through a building or another skyscraper topple. Like I couldn't handle it. I really hated this movie a lot.
Wow.
And I usually try to find things I like. Okay, the one thing I will say, and the hope I had for this movie was Christopher Nolan's fingerprints all over it. You know, I had heard about that and I was like, okay, maybe Zack Snyder won't be as Zack Snyder-y. And he wasn't. There were no depictions of females that really, really bothered me in this movie at all. I thought Lois Lane was fine. Martha Kent was fine.
She was great, actually.
Yeah.
Let's just shout out for Amy. It's a good Lois Lane. It's far better Lois Lane than Superman Returns.
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah. Well, Kate Bosworth, I'm sorry. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, Amy Adams is great. Yes. The ladies were great. Usually I can yell about Zack Snyder and his gross shit that he does with ladies. But in this instance...
that was mainly one movie, and that was his weird brain putting it all together. I also really liked, I don't know her name. Anche True.
Anche True. Yeah, she who plays
evil
Fiora.
girl. Yes.
That
was fun.
Yeah, she's amazing in this.
Her
movie.
fight was the best fight.
Yeah.
Okay,
No love for Michael Shannon?
I am a huge Michael Shannon fangirl. I meant to say this earlier when we were talking about Mud. I want to lay the tracks down right now. I love Michael Shannon. I did not care for his Zod. I felt like it was the Dwight Schrute of Superman villains. Like, I did not get it at all. And maybe that's because I've got this lingering love for Terrence Stamp. I don't know. But, I was not feeling it for Michael Shannon, which pains me to say. I did love Russell Crowe. I didn't love everything they did with Russell Crowe, but I love...
Russell Crowe totally redeems himself after Les Miserables.
I did love Russell Crowe. I like Diane Lane a lot. But a lot of the secondary, tertiary characters, like, I don't know. If you compare it to the Avengers has the advantage, right, of all those movies leading up to it. So when you get this huge ensemble cast, you already... theoretically have an emotional attachment to various people. And I couldn't help but compare this to the Avengers because you can't really compare it to The Dark Knight because the tone is so different.
You could compare it to Batman Begins or Iron Man 1.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. But I just felt like I said, I just did not care about so many people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like how can I care about the world ending or what have you if I don't care about the people that are populating this world. And then also, I'm not saying a Superman movie should be super funny or really silly, but this is a very grim Superman.
Yeah, this movie really takes itself seriously.
Yeah, there were like 3 good laughs. That's it. So yeah, that's my unpopular stance on Man of Steel.
I mean... I don't know about that last part because, the Donner films and Returns, like there is like some slapstick stuff in those films, and people
slapstick stuff in Superman 2 was the other director.
Oh,
let me just point that out.
Okay, fair point, but you know what I mean, like, and people complain about those. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like,
no, I'm not looking for slapstick, but I would say. Yeah. The Avengers or any of the Avengers prequels or even the X-Men films.
Or Superman 1, guys. We did make this movie already, and that's really what you have to compare it to, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Richard Lester is director of Superman 2. Thanks for pointing that out, Devindra.
Well, yeah, I mean, Donner did some of it, and they released the Donner, but Richard Lester directed like half of it. That's a confusing-ass movie to watch.
Yeah. Fair, yeah, good point. Okay, so that's Joanna's opinion on Man of Steel. So, Devindra Hardwar, your thoughts?
I definitely have complicated feelings about this movie. I don't outright hate it like you do, Joanna, but I can see where you're coming from because this movie starts off kind of rough. Like it introduces, not a huge spoiler here, but it introduces us to a Krypton we've never seen before, to the point where, we've talked about this thing, right, where you can only ask the audience to accept so much in a movie. In this movie, in the first 5 minutes, we accept so many things. It's like future Krypton, flying vehicles, crazy costumes, and now Russell Crowe's riding a bird or some giant like lizard
like
thing.
Mosquito dragon thing.
Yeah. It is crazy. It's definitely the Krypton we've never seen before. It was kind of interesting how they put that all together. But yeah, it's like I can see what this movie is trying to do. It's trying to show us the inner angst of Superman. The first hour and a half feels like that's all it's dedicated to because we see him in his vagrant life, just going from place to place, saving people here and there, and then we get the flashbacks to his youth. I don't know why, but I just didn't really feel much from all of that. And maybe it's just because you can clearly see what they're trying to do. It's not a very subtle storytelling mechanism, and I suppose we can't really expect much from David Goyer, who is, the guy, he writes a lot of movies. I really like that he helped bring the Blade franchise into something that was popular, and then he helped kill it with Blade 3, but that was a problematic movie for many reasons. But David Goyer just can't write dialogue. There's a line early on in this movie where I knew it was going to be tough going. I think, Russell Crowe says, Jor-El says, yeah, we had a child, a boy child. A boy child. Really? You could have a boy. It's like,
I know it might sound to listeners like Devindra is taking something and blowing it out of proportion, but when you listen to some of the dialogue in this movie, it is outright terrible. Like just people stating their thoughts, right? Like people telling, not showing.
You're a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. What do you do?
No, I'm a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist.
Yeah, that's what she says.
That's even better. You state your titles.
Yeah, it is. Some of the dialogue is pretty rough. I would say no rougher than some of the dialogue in the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight films. Some of it gets, well, yeah, actually. No, it's a little rougher than those.
Batman Begins feels rough because, by the way, also Goyer co-wrote that as well. So you can feel like he has this just really hammy way of handling dialogue. I feel like this movie needed some of that, but it also just needed some help in terms of streamlining its storytelling because we spend so much time dealing with Superman's angst. By the time the story does get going and Zod shows up and there's this trying to do things to the Earth, after a point you just don't care, and then the action starts. Like an hour and a half in, the real action starts. And it's great. It's fantastic. And then it goes on for, it seems, way too long. So it's kind of weird how it kind of fixes some of the problems from Superman Returns, but by doing so, it creates its own set of problems. I don't know.
My problem with the Krypton section, right, was
that it was 30 minutes long or whatever?
Yeah. Well, hey, dude, Die Hard had 30 minutes of no action too.
The first Superman took a long time to get going.
Yeah,
right?
So I have no beef with that. Yeah. I think my beef is not, and the thing is, you respect the fact that they went all out on this Krypton section. It wasn't just like, here's a vague shot of Jor-El and his wife in this birthing chamber, and that's all you're going to see of Krypton. It's like, wow, they created an entire world. My problem with the world is not that they went all out with it. It's that the design of the world seemed to be more informed by, hey, wouldn't this look and feel cool, as opposed to, hey, this would be logical. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like all these, why would these people are clearly like super advanced creatures,
they live in
right?
caves,
but they don't even have like Skype video technology, right? Like they have these particles that move around in air instead, and the whole codec system. And why would it be accessed like that? Like there's all these.
Let's save some of this for spoilers. But
the kelp, the baby kelp, is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah. No, this stuff is in the beginning of the movie, so it's like all this stuff that just kind of is. it felt to me like, why would anyone design things like this? It looks really spectacular, but when you think about it, it just feels like there's some worlds like the Star Trek universe, you know what I mean? Where you look at how things are designed and you're like, oh, I can sort of understand why you would make things this way, right? Why a future, race, advanced race would make things this way. And then there's stuff like this where it's just like, well, I don't even get the order of this universe.
It feels like it was conceived and executed by fanboys, basically. Like, this would be amazing. This would be cool. We've never seen Krypton do this.
Exactly. No, so you got to admire the dedication, but like you kind of, the logic kind of doesn't make
the entire
sense.
Point of that opening sequence, by the way. It goes on forever. And the action, we see for some reason Russell Crowe is like beating people up. Like he has a fist fight with Zod. That he's shooting people
because he's Krypton's #1 scientist. He is obviously he fights people.
He can kick ass for sure. But the thing is, like, what are they trying to do with this opening scene? They're really trying to do what J.J. Abrams did in 4 minutes in the first Star Trek. Like, that's it. That's what you're trying to do. Like, this entire movie, and I feel like that first sequence just kind of is really telling for the entire film. Like, if there's certain things were cut out, if it was tightened up a bit and the tension was really ramped up, I think it would have been much more effective than it was. And yeah, for the rest of the film, like, I kind of felt the same way. Like, I love seeing a young Clark Kent trying to come to terms with his powers. There's some really great sequences, and I love all the sequences with him as a child, just him in school, him saving a school bus at one point. I actually really like some of the supporting cast too. Like Amy Adams is a great and refreshing Lois Lane, because I'm thinking of like the Lois Lane from like the Fleischer cartoons, who is just she's just like really ballsy and she gets into trouble a lot. But it's fun, and she's just like a really strong character. And Michael Shannon's fantastic. I thought he had a lot of fun as Zod, and it's great seeing him chew up the scenery. Like if there is a great heir to Terrence Stamp's insanity, right now, it's Michael Shannon. I mean, come on, who else would you pick?
The thing is, I thought Michael Shannon would kind of play a raving lunatic, as we've known him to play in films such as Revolutionary Road and on occasion Take Shelter. But in fact, I thought he ended up kind of investing a lot of pathos into this role. That I would not have anticipated. Certainly towards the end of the movie.
Villain, yeah.
I'm not going to give away what happens, but towards the end of the movie, like this, they took some turns with Zod's character that I wasn't really prepared for, and I really appreciated that.
Go ahead.
Well, no, whereas I thought on each like very important interaction that he got to this one line that he would deliver very shrilly, and it was a complete reversal of tone. Like what you're talking about, that pathos, like would come out in this like climactic line of the scene, and it happened 3 times, and it's just like, if you do this, then this, and it's like I don't know, I
have to shout everything.
I don't know. And the other thing I want to talk about is all the terminology. I'm at a huge disadvantage. I haven't read the Superman comics. I don't know any of the lore and the backstory and that sort of stuff, so it might be that some of the terminology is familiar to people who are fans of the comic, but I felt like in this movie, more so, you get it all the time in comic book movies where there's a device or there's a concept that's named something, outlandish that we have to pick up on. Like, and it didn't bother, like in the Avengers, it's like the Tesseract, right? It doesn't bother me. I feel like they established it and I understood it. And here I felt like terms were flying left and right, like this kind of engine and that kind of engine and this kind of thing. And none of it was grounded in a way that I connected to at all. And I just felt like it was too much. And I, like I said, I don't know if it exists in the comics, so if a comic book fan would just immediately recognize it. But for me, it didn't land at all. So.
I don't know. Like, I haven't really read the Superman comics either, but it was just really two major terms that they relied on, was the whole world engine thing, and then the Phantom engine crap.
The Phantom engine, but then it's like, then they were put into like somatic cycles in the whatever zone, and the Phantom Zone, and then why did
it all connects together, Joanna?
And then there's the Codex, and then there, this kind of shit, and then the key, it's like I don't know.
It feels like a lot of pieces, right? A lot of narrative pieces. We have to do this. We have to get this, and for some reason that didn't really connect as a story for me. at least. But I have to say the action, like when the action ramps up and you get to see like super powered people just go at it, it is pretty fantastic. Like that is the reason Zack Snyder was hired to make this movie, because he can do this action large scale, just and make it look fantastic. Although by the end of the movie, it feels like there's just way too much of it, which is a weird thing to say after Superman Returns felt like it didn't give us enough. And then Collateral Damage, guys. I'll save some of this for spoilers, but Superman doesn't give any fucks about collateral damage.
Absolutely. It's like the line we hear over and over again is you can save them all, right? And I was just like ratcheting up the number of human people that must have died.
And buildings and
Yeah, buildings.
Okay, so
full of people.
All right, so Devindra, you point out a couple of complaints I have with this movie. Let me just say, overall, I actually had a really good time with this film. I mean, so I saw Iron Man 3, Star Trek 2, and Man of Steel, and of those, I think this is my favorite one out of those three films.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Huh. Like this, I really ended up enjoying it. I mean, it's very problematic. It has a lot of issues, and we've talked about some of them. But ultimately, what I like about this movie is, the emotional connection that you're supposed to make with Superman, I made despite a lot of the problems, like the terrible dialogue, like young Clark Kent not being a particularly good actor. You know what I mean? Like, all these, the overly repetitive action. Even with these problems, I was still able to connect with like the fundamental emotional arc of the main character, and as a result, ended up having a really good time. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems. So Superman Returns, and comparing this to Superman Returns, that movie did not have enough action. You cannot say that about this movie. No. In fact, it has too much action, and it really becomes a problem. Now, I will say, like, if you compare this to a movie like The Matrix Revolutions, where you kind of have two superpowered guys going at it, I think this movie did that a lot better, right? I think it was able to switch it up, kind of try to give you some new visuals and effects and things that happen when two super beings go at it, as opposed to just like Neo and Agent Smith flying through the air, punching each other. Like
it also helps that there are multiple. It's not just two people. So like there are points where the action gets kind of tag teamed, and you're like, just that was kind of crazy cool.
And
like just seeing things like that.
And there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of really good things about the action. Most of it looks fantastic. There's a real weight to the Superman flying thing that I don't feel you really got. I don't remember getting with Superman Returns.
Well, there's a scene, I think, towards the end of Superman Returns where he's like flying through Metropolis and he's like going through a building and he like tears everything up. So there's a bit of that.
No. I mean like so
gravity,
from a physics standpoint, when you accelerate from 0 miles per hour to like 500 miles per hour in like less than a second, that makes an impact. And so you really feel that through the speakers when he's like takes off into the air. You feel like, ooh, man, like that left like a shockwave in its wake. And the way the camera does its like zoom in, like the way Snyder shot this is he kind of used a faux camera style. So even though a lot of this had, pretty much all of it had to be in CG, where you have a guy flying through the air and breaking the sound barrier multiple times, which just looks so freaking badass. The camera kind of like struggles to like focus in, and zoom in and focus, right? And it's kind of the same effect as they use in Battlestar Galactica, right? And I just love it because it feels like, even though it's not a real camera, right? It gives you this sense of verisimilitude that's not obviously doesn't exist, but you get a sense of it. And some people might find that annoying, but I actually found it really refreshing and really bought into it. So I think there's a lot of great things about the action in this movie that I love, right? Like the physics of it, right? And like what would happen if two superpowered beings go at it, and you feel like, oh man, like they would cause massive destruction, and you really feel the weight of that.
Sure.
But as a result, you lose some things from the original Superman, right? Because part of the pleasure of watching the original Superman and Superman Returns is this idea that, if there's trouble somewhere, right? If some dude is getting mugged somewhere, right? Like Superman's going to come out of nowhere and save you, right? That was one of the best things about Superman is like as a kid watching Superman thinking, wow, it would be amazing if this dude was able to just come out of nowhere and save me if, like, my train was about to get derailed or my plane was about to fall out of the sky. All that stuff is basically totally gone in this film. Like, the idea of, like, Superman... No, I know. Like, he's obviously trying to... He's trying
to a couple times. Yeah. He zips in a couple times out of nowhere.
I get that. But like all that stuff is totally overridden by the wanton destruction that occurs on a massive scale numerous times throughout the course of the film. Like you don't get the sense, oh, this Superman is our protector. He's gonna save the little guy from being like collateral damage in some other thing. You don't get Superman is actively causing collateral damage in this movie.
I wish somebody was like, hey guys, take this fight outside. Like, just go over there, please, because you're destroying our town and our city.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a bummer, right? That element of Superman didn't come through more, because it was one of my favorite elements of Superman in the original series.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem. Devindra, in your tweet about Man of Steel, you talked about how the pacing felt all off, and I kind of agree with you. The thing is, I liked the way they did I like the way they did the flashbacks, right? Rather than doing it as a linear storyline, but it does kill the momentum. Now there are a lot of one of the best things about this movie. I just tweeted this out about how Warner Brothers is providing pastors with sermon notes on Man of Steel. Like, use our clips of Man of Steel in your sermon today and draw Christ parallels, right? And
wait, seriously?
Yeah, I know.
I can't even. I know.
So the thing is, and this is like movie studios' way of targeting the religious community for their benefit. Yeah, I mean, this is prevalent ever since like Passion of the Christ.
Also saved humanity, it's like Jesus.
That's right. So
Passion of the Christ, they would organize like bus trips.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So they're kind of doing
kind of sense. Not Superman.
Well, the thing is, guys, I gotta say, there have always been Christ parallels with Superman, but in this movie, I felt them a lot more strongly than any other Superman film I've ever watched.
Oh, you think? There's that scene in the church where Clark Kent's talking, and there's Jesus is behind him in the stained glass window wearing a red cape. I mean, it's a red robe, but he's wearing a red cape.
But okay, so that's not that subtle, Jonah. But there are actually more subtle ways, like this idea of I don't remember. I think it was the movie Dogma, the Kevin Smith movie, or which I'm not sure which movie it was, but about someone gave this monologue about how in the Bible you read about Jesus being born, and then you read about him when he's like 12 years old for like one incident, and then nothing until he's in his 30s, right? And this movie, and somebody posited like, if you were told, right, that you were going to be the savior of humanity, wouldn't it take you maybe like 30 years to come to terms with that fact, right? and watching this movie, like one of the things this movie does amazingly well that I don't think any other Superman film has ever done as well is convey this idea of what it is for a boy to come to terms with his powers. And it does it incredibly effectively. And this whole line in the trailer about how like the world's too big, Mom, then make it small, and it's so cheesy. But the thing is, in the context of the film, it was still cheesy, but it totally worked on me. I was like, wow, I get. And the way they conveyed like young Clark coming in terms of his powers, really effective.
Being overly sensitized by the world or something. Yeah, like that.
Exactly.
That was cool.
Really awesome stuff. And the thing is, one of the main like poster shots of Man of Steel is Superman being led down a military hallway by all these guys around him, and he's in handcuffs. And, like, for me, that is like a really powerful image. Like, I cannot help but be kind of moved by that image.
You can't help but think of Roman soldiers taking Jesus.
Yeah, whereas I was really frustrated by how overt the Jesus imagery was, because it's always been there, and I always think it's interesting for Superman. And in this, I thought it was just ham-fisted and terrible.
Well, that's how Zack Snyder works, right?
I know.
Subtext. Who needs subtext?
I'll make it text.
guys, over text, super text.
Or
there's a scene where he's just getting out of the shuttle that's in orbit around Earth, and he's just, I'm gonna do this crucifixion style, guys. I'm just gonna hover above Earth like I'm being crucified for all of humanity.
My arms out, like that was like.
You don't need to do that, but okay.
Yeah. I couldn't.
So anyway,
so Dave, are the parallels a plus for you? Because for me, the super text is actually kind of annoying.
Yeah.
They actually, I don't know, they were a plus. People like hate me enough in general. Listeners to the show hate me enough for like slagging off Iron Man 3.
The love for this episode, Dave. Trust me.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like I actually really, I don't want to say enjoyed the Christ parallels, but I found them thought-provoking. You know, because like the idea of Superman being in handcuffs, like it's just such a I'm saying genius, but like it's like this idea of like it says so much. You know what I mean? I know I sound like a freaking freshman in a college philosophy class right now, but this idea that he is humbling himself for humanity, right? For humanity's sake.
It's too good for us, man.
Is I just think kind of a profound notion. I don't know. Maybe.
He flied for our sins, man. He did that.
That's what it is.
Nice,
but like,
Jonah.
I actually hear what you're saying, and I like some of that, but what's weird is how this movie focuses on, like, that struggle, right? Struggling to come to terms with who he is, being an alien to this world and everything. But at the same time, it seems tough, like, what is his journey to actually love and embrace humanity? One major change, and I think we heard this in one of the trailers, was Pa Kent saying, young Clark Kent asked him, like, should I have just let those kids in the school, the school bus die?
Yeah.
And Pa Kent's like, maybe. And I was like, oh, maybe they're just taking this out of context, because that sounded weird. That just sounded messed up. In the movie, it's even worse, guys.
It's pretty bad.
Maybe you should let them die, because you can't show yourself to humanity, because humanity cannot be trusted. And it's weird how this movie transforms Papa Kent, who I think was always a great, hopeful and noble character, into a guy who is just so pessimistic and almost a little misanthropic. Like, he is telling his son to hide who he really is because he doesn't trust people. Like, rather than, I feel like the message we get in most movies is embrace who you are, right? Hiding.
But
that was sort of Martha Kent's philosophy.
Yes, that was Martha Kent's. It's weird that was all Pa Kent was saying. Like, that's all we saw, and then we'll talk about something else that happened.
Yeah, let's talk about that later.
Way over the top.
But Pa Kent's suspicions are, to some extent, proven correct, I would say. I mean, I think, like, a lot of the movie is about humanity's attempt to come to terms with the idea of Superman as well.
Sure.
Through Christopher Maloney's eyes. You know what I mean?
But, like, and Richard Skiff. But, like...
Yeah.
They already did that so well, in my opinion, in The Dark Knight, where like your hero of Gotham is mistrusted and rejected and all this sort of thing, that I just didn't like. It was so superficial. It was like the militaristic government officials are like, we're not sure about you, Superman, and then they're like, no, okay, we're good.
You're all right. You're
all right in my book. I didn't like this movie, guys.
I could tell. I like the idea too. I do like the idea of exploring why humanity should trust Superman and why Superman himself should trust humanity. To me, it felt it's a David Goyer movie, guys. It's a David Goyer movie, or written movie. It just feels ham-fisted. Doesn't feel subtle. Doesn't feel like believable in a way that makes me care about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, despite those things, I had a good time. You know, I saw a lot of cool stuff. I had got my brain thinking a little bit about, Christ parallels, and really that's all I kind of ask for a movie is deliver on those things.
That is not all you ask for in a movie. Where are the analytics of the like physical impossibilities of this movie?
No, I mean, it's a good.
Where's
point.
your 5 things?
But the main problem is that, Dave, like, I can get all of that, but does this movie need to be almost 2.5 hours long? It feels like it drags.
I think you're right, and I think it does suffer from like multiple endings. You know what I mean? It does have this thing where you think it's over and then it's not over. Okay, let me also point out something else that I really liked about the movie. Okay, which is that I think it takes elements of the Superman mythos that we are familiar with and gives them a unique spin. You know, this whole idea that you get a sense of in the trailers about like Superman like walking the earth, and this whole how Superman and Lois Lane
like somebody wandering the desert. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There you go. And this whole
Are you
idea
talking about Michael Landis in that TV show where he was?
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually thought you were talking about Kung Fu. The legend continues.
I'm talking about all those things,
but all those things at once. I'm not going to explain how Lois Lane and Superman first meet, but the way their lives intersect, like I thought was kind of interesting and not something we've seen before. The concept of kryptonite, which I'm not going to give away what the movie does with that in this movie, but it kind of like kryptonite, guys, has been pretty silly. Okay, let's be honest. It's been pretty silly in the movies that we've seen kryptonite in. And this movie was like, let's not be silly. Let's kind of take the idea of kryptonite and make it into something more serious. Now, I think they were of limited success.
Do you think that they were trying to do kryptonite? Because I just thought they were trying to.
No, I think that was definitely a nod to kryptonite. I mean, it was definitely their version.
Kryptonite workaround.
Yeah, it was definitely their version of kryptonite, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it's like
okay.
I think that was moderately effective. I mean, because seeing like green crystal stuff would have kind of taken you out of the film, and the way they did it in this movie also kind of took you out of the film, but wasn't as bad as that. So,
I do miss Cal Penn stabbing Superman.
Yes, this movie will never have that, and that is to its eternal loss.
We don't know if the series will never introduce kryptonite. It's just this particular movie.
Sure. Or again, I think that the movie did introduce kryptonite. We can talk about that during spoilers.
Yeah.
And so like all these concepts that have been part of the Superman mythos have been kind of spun in an interesting way in this movie.
And he wears his underwear on the inside.
This Superman, guys.
This Superman wears V-necks, so you can really see those pecs.
It's kind of like how
Henry Cavill is ridiculous. Can we just let's just address that first?
Yeah, let's just put that out there because even without a suit. Like Henry Cavill, just shirtless. Like what?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, his body is shaped like a V, like the Superman. V.
It's ridiculous. Like you think Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine is ridiculous. No. And the other thing I do want to say about Henry Cavill is I found him very endearing and approachable. Like he's got a great face, not just like a handsome face, but a really just open, lovable face. So my criticisms of Man of Steel do not really splash over onto Henry Cavill.
Yeah, they don't splash over. Thanks, Joanna. Do we all think Henry Cavill did a good job? Devindra, you're a fan?
I thought he did a good job, but I think his portrayal of Clark Kent and Superman suffers because there's no charm to him. He's all angst, and it's like we expect that from Bruce Wayne, we expect that from Batman, and I can see doing that with Superman, but I don't know.
We didn't really get to see him Clark Kenting too much.
Well, it's weird. It's weird because if this movie is an origin story of anything, it's an origin story of Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
Daily Planet reporter, yeah.
More about that in spoilers, but I thought that was interesting. That is a great reversal on the whole Superman mythology.
So that's what I'm saying. All these like elements that it's kind of like what Batman Begins did with the Batmobile. You know what I mean? They have this Tumblr thing, and you haven't seen anything like it before. It's kind of like, I see how that's kind of the Batmobile, but not really. That's how I felt about a lot of the Superman elements in this film, and I thought it was pretty refreshing. So between the actions, some of the action, the fantastic visuals, Henry Cavill being good, and this kind of unique spin on the Superman mythos, and plus, we gotta mention Hans Zimmer's score.
Great score.
Which is very effective. It's very different than the John Williams score, and I'm hoping to put together a comparison of the scores to be like an episode coming up this week. If I have time, I'll take care of that. But yeah, he totally went in a different direction than what John Williams did, and it really works for this movie. Mm-hmm. So all those things combined make this like a pretty freaking enjoyable summer going experience.
Incorrect.
That is the weird problem, though, right? Because it has all the pieces, and honestly, I felt a lot very similar about Star Trek 2, right? Has all the pieces of a great summer blockbuster, but if the pieces don't fit together, it just feels weird. So I don't know.
All right. Well, thanks for thanks for putting a little damper on my rah cheering.
I like raining all over your parade.
Yeah,
all over Dave's parade.
Here's my question, Joanna. Was it as good as it was in the books?
I already admitted that I haven't read the comic books. So
That's a joke from Cast.
It's time for a listener to pull that trick on Joanna.
Yeah.
Actually, someone already did on Twitter. They were like, "Oh, these terms are not in the comic book, and this one is." And I'm like, "Thanks, guys."
Yeah. All right, let's move into spoilers for Man of Steel. But before we do that, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor for this week, Audible. You can find them at audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. That's audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. Audible is one of the finest purveyors of audio content on the internet. Audiobooks, newspapers, magazines. You can find pretty much anything you want to listen to at audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. So some good stuff coming from Audible. And we got to recommend a book that you might like if you're listening to the /filmcast and want to get some better audio content for your ride to work and back. Joanna Robinson, you want to mention this book that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, the one that came to mind that I thought /filmcast listeners might like is a book by Owen King called Double Feature. Owen King is Stephen King's son, and his other son, not Joe Hill's son. And what's interesting about this book is, it's about a filmmaker, not a novelist, but it very much seems to be about Owen King's own daddy issues in the book, because it's about a young man who's growing up in the shadow of his father, who is also a filmmaker. But but it's funny. It's a funny book. And, there's a lot of, it's steeped in film culture. So I just thought it would be an interesting thing for /filmcast listeners to read or listen to.
Here's a description from the publisher summary. An epic debut novel about a young man coming to terms with his life in the process and aftermath of making his first film. Filmmaker Sam Dolan has a difficult relationship with his father, B-movie actor Booth Dolan, a boisterous, opinionated, lying Lothario whose screen legacy falls somewhere between cult hero and pathetic. Yikes! If that is actually how he thinks of his dad, yikes.
I mean, that's interesting. It's interesting, right?
Right.
Isn't it? And it's interesting to me that Joe Hill, who's had a monstrous amount of success because he is very talented, decided not to take his dad's name. And this one, whose novel kind of tries to distance himself from his father, did take his father's last name. It's just
a monstrous amount of success. I like how you did that, Jonah.
Oh, it's a funny little family, the King family, and but this book is, say what you will about the daddy issue stuff, this book is very funny. And, it's fun to read about the film world if you're a huge film fan, or listen to an audiobook about the film world.
The book is Double Feature, a novel, and it's written by Owen King, narrated by Holter Graham. You can get this book and many others for free right now by going to audiblepodcast.com/filmcast if you sign up with Audible. So audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. I know there's a lot of people out there, you're listening to the show, you enjoy the /filmcast, but you're like, dude, I'm never going to donate any money to you guys. Maybe you want to support us by actually just patronizing the fine efforts of Audible at audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. You get something and we get something because Audible is our sponsor, and they'll know that you guys are supporting us through audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. This reminds me of how when I was young, I used to take lessons at the New England Conservatory, and Yo-Yo Ma kind of hung out in the area. And
Yo-Yo Ma is your dad?
No. He had a daughter who played violin, right? And I would talk about that with my cello teacher, how why didn't she take cello? Because she'd be like, she'd have the best teacher in the world teaching her cello. And he said, well, that would be pretty difficult because throughout, no matter how good she got, it would always be, well, she's no Yo-Yo Ma. Do you know what I mean? And so you kind of got to have some sympathy for people like Owen King who are living in the shadow of their fathers.
Right.
But you can express that sympathy by getting this book through audiblepodcast.com. audible.com/filmcast. All right, thanks to Audible for sponsoring our show, and let's move on into spoilers for Man of Steel.
Now you're looking for the secret.
You're gonna see this coming.
No,
But you won't find it because, of course,
you're not going to see this coming.
you're not really looking.
I have been puzzling over how it works.
You don't really want to work it out.
I have been dying to tell you. I want to tell you my secret.
You want to be fooled.
All right, so in this movie, they don't have kryptonite, right? They have the atmosphere on Zod's ship kind of makes him weak, right? And so that's kind of their version of kryptonite.
The Kryptonian atmosphere in general.
The Kryptonian atmosphere in general.
'Cause it comes up later.
Superman has been spending so much time adapting to Earth atmosphere that, you know... And so I kind of like that. I kind of like there's no green crystal. It's just kind of this atmosphere thing that he might be weak for, and I kind of think that's kind of cool. So,
Well, and vice versa, how the weakness for the Kryptonians is when their like visors would crack and they would have to deal with the Earth atmosphere.
that was kind of cool. Although, like, the thing is, that's one of the problems with the action scenes is that it felt a little inconsistent. It felt like those things would crack. Like when they crack, the battle is over, right?
Yeah.
And so it felt like those things would crack at like totally random times. It's like,
Yes.
okay, they've been fighting for 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden the thing is cracked, and then boom, you fly away with the Sears in the background, and it's like, you know, it just felt weird. Like the
Because
problem
they
is
had
that,
no other way of ending it.
Right, 'cause
Otherwise,
when
you
you
have
have-
to write in a way to deal with that.
Yeah,
to end the
and I
battle
don't,
properly.
and yeah, they didn't do that, and so that's kind of one of the flaws of the movie is that when you have invincible creatures fighting against each other and like nothing seems to have an impact on them, you need to kind of resort to contrivances to end the battles.
Maybe
And-
it feels like that is how so many elements of the movie happen, though. You know, it feels like, you know, Superman, the way he's coming to terms with his powers. I like some of those scenes, but a lot of them just felt like ways to fill in the blanks. It felt like the narrative was being forced at us in a way, right? It wasn't allowed to grow organically or anything. And that's the thing. Like those action scenes are great until they go on forever, and then they stop abruptly, not organically.
What do we think of the ending? Do you guys think that this movie was purposely trying to evoke 9/11 imagery?
Really? Or are you gonna even ask this question, Dave? How many 9/11s occurred in this movie?
Well, the question
Many.
is
9/11.
the question is like, I mean, all right. So I got
people
some,
covered in ash trying to save themselves from the rubble. Yes, buildings falling. Yes, it's just like Star Trek Into Darkness. Like they have this terrorism imagery. Not sure if it's really being used, properly.
This is the point I was trying to make obliquely earlier, which is that I quite like the actors involved. Lawrence Fishburne, that guy from House of Cards, this woman I've never met who's playing ostensibly Jenny Olsen. Like, I like them, but I've spent like zero time with them. So why do I care? Like, they are the main touchstone for this large set piece, like Superman's over the Indian Ocean trying to fly really hard at something, and then
Well,
Lois Lane.
several things have to happen at the same time.
Lois Lane's in the like aircraft carrier or whatever, and then our human connection are Perry White and Jenny Olsen and the other guy trying to get Jenny Olsen out of this rubble, but like I don't know her. I don't care. Like I want to care, but she's had like 2 lines, so I don't care, And so I wish they had spent 20 fewer minutes on Krypton and a few more minutes establishing these secondary, tertiary characters so that I cared when Chris Maloney, sacrifices himself or whatever. Like then I would care more.
It is kind of tough because in every other Superman story, right, the Daily Planet, the whole Clark Kent identity, that's what's being introduced first. So you get the Daily Planet people, you get more time there, you get to do more there. This one, it's very different. So we don't get the connection with them. I
almost wonder if that was cut. Like, because they kept... Like Perry White kept going, Jenny, like as if we were supposed to really know her. And so I'm wondering if there were Daily Planet scenes that were cut for time, but it didn't make sense.
I'm referencing an article that Kyle Buchanan wrote at Vulture called "Is it possible to make a Hollywood blockbuster without evoking 9/11?" And okay, I can accept that. Metropolis is kind of an analog for New York, and that this is 9/11 imagery that's being evoked here, but I just don't accept this idea that any time you destroy a city in a movie, it is evoking 9/11.
Dave,
city destructions happened long before 9/11.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. But this movie, sorry, dude,
Okay,
guilty as charged.
Okay,
Come
okay.
on.
No, I openly acknowledge that. I openly acknowledge that. I'm just saying, like, let's not go overboard because, like, see, Hollywood has been destroying cities for decades, right? Like,
Sure.
not just since 9/11, and so, like, so I'm just saying, let's be cautious before we say, like, oh, it's clearly trying to sort of exploit our feelings towards 9/11.
But what is I don't know, what is pushing you to say let's be cautious? Because this movie certainly isn't cautious about its use of 9/11 imagery.
Okay, well that's fair. That's fair enough, Devindra. I mean, I think one of the main faults of this movie is this idea that and Matt Singer wrote a nice piece about this too at IndieWire called "This Summer's Movies Have a PG-13 Problem," where you have cities, and this happens in movies like Iron Man 3 and Star Trek 2, where you have like huge swaths of people and buildings and populations or in ships or whatever being totally laid waste to, but you just have no sense of how many people are dying, right? You don't actually see that many people die. You don't actually see that many people die on screen. A lot of those deaths are implied. And as a result, and like that's actually a legitimate problem for this film because Superman goes crashing through so many suspiciously empty buildings. You know what I mean? That it's like it's hard to get a sense of the stakes when they're actively avoiding showing people dying.
The collateral.
Right? Yeah.
Is that this summer's problem, though? I feel like that's always been the case of large-scale PG-13 action movies.
I mean, I think that's probably a legitimate point.
I don't find it any
worse this summer, though, because
this movie feels particularly worse because it's like the only I love the idea of superpowered people fighting each other, but I feel like in terms of how you're staging that, what Zack Snyder ends up doing is just throwing them into buildings far too often, and we get that a lot in the opening Smallville fight, which, by the way, all the destruction in that fight is all Superman's fault. Because he takes the fight, like he takes the dude away from his remote, farmhouse into the middle of the city,
right,
or town, and then just they proceed to fight and lay waste to everything.
IHOPs
and
76
Sears,
stations, and
so many things. So I mean, I can understand it there, just because you have to show the level of these, the scale of damage, the level of these characters, I guess. But it's weird how they're. At no point does Clark Kent be like, maybe we should go somewhere else.
Well, what was really weird...
We should go away from people.
Yeah, what was really weird...
Go to one of the millions cornfields that are, just nearby.
What was
you guys seen...
What was really weird about that scene was how they made a big deal. Like, a lot of shots were of like, oh, people going into hiding in these buildings. And I was thinking, oh, okay, like, this is setting up how Superman...
He tells them to go inside.
Yeah, he tells them to go inside. I'm like, oh, this is setting up how Superman's going to prevent these people from being hurt. And then, of course, frickin' all those buildings are totally destroyed after, with presumably the people still inside.
Yeah, every single one of those people died.
Yeah.
First he does is blow up a gas station. Let's just, he flies that dude into a gas, station and it blows up. And I'm sure everybody in there is dead.
Can I ask you a question?
Go.
Who is that dude? So, I mean, he flies Zod. Doesn't he fly Zod into the gas station? He
flies the big tough guy.
Yeah, so the big dude. Who is the big dude? So like this is what I'm talking about, like failure to establish. Couldn't we have had one scene where, because we get who the lady is, but who is this big dude with her and why do we care? That he's involved in the fight.
Yeah. I do think a lot more time could have been spent on these tertiary characters just because it would have made for a better movie and more interesting stuff. At least they gave Evil Girl some time because she was fun.
Yeah.
She was fun. But then I thought
she's
she died.
going to haunt my dreams, that woman.
Wait, did you guys think she died when they carried her like immobile body back into the ship?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't even remember.
I thought she was dead and then she was there again. So I don't know. Maybe.
By the way, was it just me or did Christopher Meloni also trap himself in that terrible black hole phantom thing at the end?
It's a good death.
It was a self-sacrifice. He sacrificed.
Yeah, it's just kind of bummed me out because I'm like.
But he was willing to take Lois Lane with him. But fortunately, because she's so clumsy, she fell out of the back of the plane.
We also lost Richard Schiff, but
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that big moment where Christopher Maloney says, engage! And they're like, even with the guy in the blue? And he's like, all enemy targets! And they start they start like firing at everyone. And then after Superman saves a bunch of them, Christopher Maloney says, like, this man is not our enemy. You know, like, that's super corny, but that moment worked for me. I mean,
my question is, where is the president of the United States in any movie like this, right? Where something batshit insane is happening. Where are we only getting like second level generals here? We're getting Harry Lennox, who I love Harry Lennox, but we're getting Harry Lennox and Christopher Maloney. Just, who are these guys? Why are they the ones dealing with Earth's first contact with an alien civilization?
And why do I care? Why do I care?
Yeah.
And I really feel like Kevin Costner was phoning it in. I did not think that he was connecting at all with his part. And like, as I mentioned before, the only emotional stakes I really felt were when Russell Crowe was stabbed, because I really do like what Russell Crowe was doing. And when Diane Lane was in trouble, because I really liked her Martha Kent.
She was great.
Other than that, I didn't care.
Yeah. Can we talk about Pa Kent's death scene? Because what the hell?
Yeah, that was really...
That is the sort of manufactured drama that really took me out of this movie, because it's like, come on, like that guy.
It's like, hey, let's send the guy without superpowers back into the tornado to save the dog.
It's like they wanted to give Clark his Uncle Ben moment, right? Yeah. Where he had this or his Batman moment. But it's his dad is like mentally unstable. Pa Kent is mentally unstable when he's like, no, son with superpowers, just let it take me.
But you can see your superpowers, yeah. But it's like I can see the point of doing that, because clearly Pa Kent didn't want Clark to reveal himself to the people, sure. Except there were probably a couple ways you could have hidden that, just like running, getting there, grabbing the dog or something. But I don't know, the bigger problem is just like Pa Kent, super downer. And basically, he's like, no, son, I want you to be responsible for my death for the rest of your life. Just sit back. Sit back and enjoy this. You're going to live with this. It's going to be great. Don't worry.
He's like, I'm going to hold up my hand. This image right here, going to haunt you forever. Okay? All right. No, don't move.
The good thing about, or what I've always liked about Pa Kent is like they had just a great relationship. He was a noble guy. He always he embodied hope in a way. And it's weird how this Pa Kent is just completely hopeless. Like he just cares about protecting his son, which I guess is realistic to a certain extent, but just it's very, very short-sighted. And I guess that's balanced out with Mother Kent. But it just felt very weird.
But again, guys, like I do think Pa Kent's suspicions were like kind of justified. People did kind of flip out a little bit when Superman revealed himself. I mean, it was only for literally 20 minutes of the movie. But
less time than we spent on that dragon on Krypton.
Yeah.
They got over it pretty quickly. You save humanity's ass once, I think they'll forgive you. That's kind of the way it works. But it is kind of weird, because I'm not sure if Clark Kent has ever had to deal with the guilt of letting his father die before. Whereas that guy, kind of dealing with a lot already. In the first Superman movie, it's such a quiet moment, and it's incredibly heartbreaking too, because there was a great actor portraying him. But it's a quiet thing, almost like death is a natural part of life, and you can't really escape it to a certain degree. Whereas this one is more like sacrifice. It's all about sacrifice, more of that Jesus imagery.
All right, let me ask you guys about the very, very ending, like the last few shots of this movie. I thought this movie was going to go a crazy way and totally jettison the Clark Kent working at the Daily Planet thing altogether. But instead, they kind of set it up kind of interestingly. And Lois Lane already knows who he is when he starts working for the Daily Planet, right? I mean, did you guys like that touch? Did you guys care at all? By then, were you just ready to get out of the theater? Like,
it's a fun little reversal. I thought that was one of the really, really charming things that this movie did, is that it basically made the whole idea like, okay, once he came into his own as Superman, he had to figure out his human suit, and that's Clark Kent. And he had to put all that together in his costume, his glasses. I think it sounds like another Kevin Smith movie, or somebody else like at some point mentioned like, Superman's kind of the only hero where his normal self is his costume.
You're thinking of the end of Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yes, that's one. But that's kind of the idea that this was sort of hinting at, and I like that. But I wish
really
there
like.
was more. I don't know. I wish we had. I was less tired of the movie by that point.
I really like your point. I hadn't thought of it that way, and I think it's the best thing that the movie does, which is talking about it as Clark Kent's origin story. And as you say, him like putting on his satchel and his glasses and all that sort of stuff. That's whereas at the end of a superhero origin story, often you get them putting on their costume that the spandex or whatever. So yeah, that was a cute touch. I like that a lot.
It's definitely fun. I also
I could say nice things.
Yes.
My fiance pointed out too, like this kind of reminded her of Ghostbusters. I think Ghostbusters 2, where they get the bill for the damage to the city. I wonder what Superman's bill for damage to Metropolis will be, because he doesn't care. He does not care at all about just flying through cities, knocking people through buildings, and we sit back and watch. Like I think at least 6 or 7 buildings we see fully collapse and also knock into other buildings. And it's like a weird puzzle there.
Something about this movie that I wish I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in this review is the movie looks fantastic, guys. Like part of it was filmed on actual film, I believe, is my understanding, and it just looks great. I mean, the grain of the film is like it looks unlike a lot of films shot. I mean, I just saw Skyfall on Blu-ray. And that movie looks great, but it looks different than this movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the look of it, the way the film is colored, and it has a great look to it that I think Zack Snyder. You can definitely tell he does a really good job at making things.
What we've said about Zack Snyder before is that he is very good at seeing what other people are doing, right? Conveying somebody else's ideas and kind of shaping it into something that's entertaining. The thing about the way the film looks, Dave, and the grain and everything is like you can instantly see what he's trying to evoke. Like he's trying to evoke this sort of like Terrence Malick-y sort of I don't know, just like wistfulness or something. Like it's a weird tone, but I wish the movie had actually owned that. Like I wish it had actually done something to deserve using that sort of style, and not just using that style and saying, hey, feel this way, audience. And it feels like so many things in the movie are like that to me.
Well,
yeah, and I agree that it was beautiful, like with Clark Kent around the clothesline, like with a whatever towel pinned to his shirt. Like this is a beautiful shot. It's like just gorgeous, beautiful shot. Yeah. I didn't care. Oh God,
that's a great pull quote for the poster, by the way.
Beautiful shot. I didn't care.
The same thing about, you mentioned the like shaky cam way of handling the flying sequences. They do that too, just for shooting the normal scenes.
Yeah, there was a lot of shaky cam.
It's done in that docu style, even on Krypton, and it just felt very purposeful. Like it definitely felt like it was announcing itself that this is a different movie because we are shooting it like this, and it looks like this, versus a traditional movie. This is a new Superman, guys. He's realistic. He's dark. He's gritty. He's shaky cam. I wish it was all. I don't know. It actually amounted to something more than just style.
Well, we can say this about Zack Snyder. I was expressing how I was a bit wary. Like, I actually am a fan of Zack Snyder. I mean,
you really like Sucker Punch, Dave. Let's not forget.
I like Sucker Punch, dude. I like all the movies he did, with the possible exception of Legends of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Joanna, you missed this entire period. It was a dark period at the Filmcast. But for a point, I was the only person saying Sucker Punch was a terrible movie, and Dave and Adam, for some reason, love it. So,
well, Adam made a video essay about it. So, I mean, I've appreciated all of Zack Snyder's film, with the possible exception of Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole.
I really like Ga'Hoole.
And so, the last 3 movies he's done, Sucker Punch, Legend of the Guardians, and Watchmen, really did not perform that well. I mean, Legend of the Guardians was looked to me to be almost a financial disaster, and certainly Sucker Punch was catastrophic. So, doing 3 movies in a row that didn't take in that much box office is pretty bad for any director, no matter how invincible he is. And coming out of 300 and Dawn of the Dead, he had a lot of juice, as
I think more out of
Kevin Smith
300.
Kevin Smith referred to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Man of Steel now with the success of Man of Steel, I mean, this movie is going to make $1 billion, right? And with the success of this movie, I mean, Zack Snyder will have a career that is going to last for a very long time in Hollywood. I know, Joanna, you're really psyched about this, but I actually am moderately psyched about this. So, so I'm a fan, and I'm happy about that, and I think a lot of people watching this movie in theaters this week will also be happy about it. So
Here's what I'll say. My final positive thing about Man of Steel: there was no rape in it, and that's rare for Zack Snyder. So good job.
Wow, really going for the.
I don't think there's any rape in Alice Gahul either.
Yeah, no, there's no owl rape. That's also true.
Okay. All right.
All right.
You're really good.
By the way, that is a weird thing to point out, though, because I don't know, like he's remade stuff that has definitely has vicious rape scenes, or just vicious scenes in general, like 300 and Watchmen. But he didn't. It's not like he created those things, so I can't really blame him for showing that. Sucker Punch,
like a wall-to-wall rape fest.
Is probably, you could argue it's that's a little more problemac, but I mean it's not like we can say that's all he does.
That's the first time I've ever heard the expression wall-to-wall rape fest. And hopefully
it is an endless rape allegory. Yeah, the entire movie is.
All right, on that note, I think we can wrap things up for today.
There we go, guys.
You're welcome, everyone.
You're welcome.
Music for this podcast gonna come courtesy of the Man of Steel soundtrack. You can find more of our episodes at /filmcast.com. Email us at /filmcast@gmail.com. All right, Jenna Robinson, where can I find more of your work on the internet this week?
Every day on Pajaba.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at QuitYourJRob.
Devindra Hardawar?
Twitter.com/Devindra and VentureBeat.com.
You can find me at twitter.com/Dave Chensky. That's Dave Chen, SKY, and DaveChen.net, where you can see the culmination of my recent attempt at filming 1 second for every day of my life for a whole year.
Your very non-navel gazy attempt at doing so.
Thanks, Devindra. Thanks. So check that out at DaveChen.net, and thank you guys for tuning into the /Filmcast, the official podcast of /Film.com. Next week, we're going to be covering some combination of Monsters University and World War Z. One or both of those movies, not sure which.
Maybe at the same time.
Maybe, yeah. And we will not be recording at the normal time because I'll be in Texas for a good friend's wedding that week. So stay tuned for